mai ngā Wairarapa o te karu o te ika Māui, ka rere, ka pari, ko rua mahanga te awa. Ko te whiti, te papakainga, ko te whenua, ko tō kuturanga waiwai, ko rangitāne, ko ngā tika hungunu, ki Wairarapa o Kuiwi, ko Te Ataahia Hurihanganui tēnei, nau mai haere mai ki Kahurangi. Our voices, our stories, our place. Me karakia tātou. Whakataka te hau ki te uru. Whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina kina ki uta. Kia mā taratara ki tai. E hi ake ana te atakura. He tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei mauri ora. Tēnā anō tātou katoa. Nau mai hara mai ki Kahurangi o Arrow FM. You're here with your host, Te Ataahia, and I have a special guest, another Kahurangi in the studio, one of my two. Ko wai koe?
Ko Mario toku e gua.
Tēnā koe, Mario. And what brings you into the studio today?
I don't know.
We're still on school holiday break, so Mama has the kids during the school holiday break, and it's absolutely my pleasure to bring Mario o Marekura into the studio when I need to, so it's lovely to have you here. We're going to be talking about a number of things here on our show, our 14th episode. This is all about celebrating who we are as Wairarapa mana whenua. Those of us who descend from kahungunu o rangitāne lines, we are here to tell any pānui and share any pānui that we have for our whānau and our community. We're here to speak te reo Māori, to learn te reo Māori, and we're also here to share any resources, references or kahurangi, our gems and treasures, with those who are listening in. So welcome to our 14th episode. Ko tēnei te paraire te tekau mārima o oke topa rua mano rua tekau mātahi. Now, I had a really lovely day yesterday in one of my favourite places in the whole of the world, but in particular one of my favourite places of rangitāne connection. Where were we yesterday, Mario?
A pukaha.
We were, and we spoke about pukaha really briefly last week on the show with Marekura, didn't we? Would you like to tell our listeners what pukaha is all about? What is it?
About birds and the forest.
Birds in the forest. And it's north of Masterton, a good 30-minute drive from Opaki Road. And when you enter, of course, there's a lovely gift shop, there's a cafe, there's a bit of a museum and an exhibition inside. And then, of course, it takes you on a bit of a walk out into the bush. Now, there is a part of that let's say dying 90-mile bush, once upon a time a much larger forest, wasn't it, Mario?
Yeah.
Do you remember from memory how big it was once upon a time?
From there all the way to Masterton.
Yes.
And maybe even farther.
Yeah, I think it was probably as far as Taratahi, which is near Nanny Shell's Cafe Kāinga in Carterton. So it's really sad to see that pukaha has become such a small part of what it once was, but it's still thriving with absolutely beautiful bird life and wildlife. And what are some of the things people can see when they go to Pukaha?
What?
What are some of the things that people can see when they go to Pukaha?
Different type of birds.
They can. Now, while you're looking around at the birds, of course, you're learning all about the conservation efforts here in Wairarapa and the beautiful people behind all of the projects. And because of that, I really wanted Mario to read a really special book that I brought in. Is that okay? Now, before we read the book, I do want to play a couple of songs, because I thought how beautiful that last week we were talking all about springtime, koanga, and the connections of koanga with kohanga. So koanga meaning spring or mahuru, and kohanga meaning the nest. Because of course they both have symbolisms of new growth, new development, and blossoming like our children do. So it's lovely that we have Mario in here to continue that theme. And so last week and this week, it's all about bringing you some beautiful whānau reads. Great books to read together intergenerationally in your own families and homes. And we're about to read this book, but before we do that, some of the other kahurangi, if you like, or the other gems that we're going to be bringing to you, thanks to Mario's input, is a playlist that is themed. And some of the playlist songs that we have chosen today connect in with our book. So this first song is actually a song using the symbolism that our birds and wildlife bring, but more than that, the beauty and the peace that comes within when you're walking through the forest. And not just in the forest, but being in touch with nature, hearing water sprinkle, being in touch with your wairua. So this song is one of my favourites from one of Macy Decker's first Māori language albums. This song is called Haumanu by herself and Tama Waipara. Whakarongo mai.
Papa ki tu ana ngata e ki te o ne tapu o motu na mata. I au I te uranga mai o te ahi papa kura. O mai te wai ora, au manu o ora. Kia mana wa titi. Ora, kia mana wa
Nau mai hoki mai ki Kahurangi. Ko tātou reo o tātou kōrero ko Wairarapa tēnei. E tukumihi ana tēnei kia koutou e whakarongo mai ana ki tēnei te wahanga te kaumawha o Kahurangi. I'm here with Mario Kapua Castorina, my beautiful son, and we're talking all things summer holidays, springtime, and our beautiful pukaha and how much it gives us an uplifting feeling when we're in there. Homai te waiora, haumanu hauora. Give me that waiora, so that I can be revived and uplifted for the days ahead. And that's exactly how we feel when we go to pukaha, hey, darling?
Yeah.
Now, Mario has just finished a really important part of the pukaha program. Would you like to talk about Junior Rangers and some of the things that you do at Junior Rangers for the young kids listening in?
We learn about birds and all the forest.
So you learn about birds in all the forest. What are some of the activities that you do when you're there? Do you want to give some examples, just in case some of the children listening, the tamariki, don't know what to expect when they go to Junior Rangers?
So you learn about birds and you walk and you go and see all these different types of birds.
So what types of birds? What can you name some of them maybe for the listeners?
Kaka, kakapo, tui.
Wow. Kęrero?
Yeah?
Excellent. Now I heard yesterday you got to see one of the kęrero nesting, is that right?
Yeah.
How exciting. I also hear that sometimes they make bird nests, bird seed and kai. They help feed the wildlife at pukaha. So there's lots of things to do. If you haven't already checked it out, Junior Rangers happen every school holidays at pukaha, Mount Bruce. Get in touch with them. Now the other pānui that I wanted to bring to the motu today is of course the unfortunate postponement of their open day. Every year pukaha have a community open day. It's free to the public, but unfortunately under the current COVID level 2 restrictions, they are unable to have that go ahead as planned this weekend. So please bear in mind, pukaha is still open. They would absolutely love your support regardless. Go in there. If you do have a local address, or you are a resident or a mana whenua here in the Wairarapa, Tamaki, Nuiarua areas, take in some kind of proof of address or your surname, your whakapapa, and you will get a discount on entry. I also want to shout out to the membership program that they have at pukaha, which is something we use. They have different types of membership. One membership is paying a kind of an annual fee, and you get free entry for you and all of your whānau, and up to 6 guests, which I think is a really nice thing to have. They've also got the sponsor a hectare detail for those of you who are into conservation and wanting to protect our wildlife and our beautiful taonga and Kahurangi that is pukaha. Anyway, let's get into our story today, which of course follows our theme of manu. Now, haumanu, of course, was a word you would have heard in the Waiata by Macy Reka and Tama. And haumanu is all about oranga, being revived, being uplifted. And a lot of the references they have in the song is to bird song and that beautiful ti oriori, which I know is a lovely theme here in Wairarapa. So while this book isn't a local puka puka, the themes in it are ones that we can connect in with, especially here in Whakaoriori, you know, our beautiful town of Masterton, which of course looks to the history of this place and the lullabies, the oriori that were sung and that were carried by both our people and our manu in its time. So here we go, Mario. This is our first book. Ko te reo ti oriori o manu, te ingoa o te puka puka nei, na Hirini Melbourne I tito, nā te Māori Gardener, ngā pikitia. So it's a Hirini Melbourne book, and the lovely thing about this book is it's been around for a very long time, since the 90s, and it captures Hirini Melbourne's beautiful voice, tone and storytelling skills, of course, before he passed. The themes are wonderful. It has the connection between our mokopuna and manu, and it has absolutely beautiful illustrations. So I'm holding it up to the camera for those of you who haven't seen it. It is on our library shelf, so I do recommend going in and having a read if you can. It's in te reo Māori and English, so I will do both so that the listeners who are learning te reo can understand what we're saying. Tēnā koutou tamariki mā, te mihi a whaia kimiora. Tēnā koe whaia kimiora, te whakahoki a ngā tamariki. Tēnā koutou, everyone, said whaia kimiora. Oh, good morning, miss, the children answered. Ko manu tēnei, kei te noho ia ki te whare o kuia pare. Kei te hiahia ia ki te ako ki te waiata me te kōrero i roto i te reo Māori. Mā koutou ia e awhina, ne? Ai, te tautoko a ngā tamariki. This is Manu. He is living with kuia pare. He wants to learn to speak and sing in Māori. You'll help him, won't you? Yes, they all said. Ka waiata ngā tamariki. Tūna ti oi oi, tuara ti roi roi, hope whati whati puku reti reti e. He pai kia manu te waiata rā. The children began to sing, and the song's translation is Wiggly, waggly eel, with writhing back that twists and turns while on its slimy belly it slides and squirms. Manu loved to sing. Ka hā mama te waha o Manu ki te waiata. Ko te tangi puta mai, he reo te tere o te arewhana. He began to sing too, but the sound he made was like the trumpeting of an elephant. We provare. I just asked if Mario wanted to do an elephant sound and he just shook his head. I don't either, because it's not very nice, is it? Oh, poor things. Ka kapunga tamariki o rātou taringa, engari ka waiata tonua Manu me tōna reo te tere. The children blocked their ears, but Manu sang on. Ka kapua whaia kimiora I ōna taringa. Te kaha hoki o tō reo Manu. Turi, turi, hoi, hoi, mamai ana oku taringa. The teacher blocked her ears too, poor Manu. What a loud voice you have, Manu. Shh, be quiet, okay? You're hurting my ears. Oh no. Ka noho te whaia I te taha o Manu. Ka kōrero puka puka rāua. Whaia kimiora sat beside Manu and they began to read. He uaua kia Manu te kōrero. Ka whiwhiwhi tō nārero. Ka kīkiki ngā kupu. Ka re tāia e ia te whakahua. Rā? Rā? Ripeti, baby. Rā? Devi solo dire quello che sto dicendo io?
Ra,
Re?
re,
Ri?
ri,
Ro?
ro, ru.
Oh, Mario's just demonstrating what Manu's reading, but unfortunately Manu couldn't say them very easily. His tongue stumbled, he tangled the words, he found it hard to say.
Ra, re, ri, ro, ru.
Poor Manu, he was very sad and disappointed. Ka rongo ngā tamariki tōna reo, ka kata rātau. Kaua e kata tamariki mā, me āwhina ke tātou I Manu te kia whaia kimiora. When they heard Manu, the children laughed. Don't laugh, we must help Manu, said whaia kimiora. Ka hoki a Manu ki te kāinga kuia pare, e tautau ana o ngā ngutu, e heke ana ngā roimata, e pouri ana tōna ngā kau. Manu returned to Kuia Pare's home. His lips were drooping. Tears flowed down his face. He was very sad. Ka ki atu a Kuia Pare, he ha koe e tangi nei, he ha te raruraru. Ka whakahoki a Manu, I ka tangata miriki ki tōku reo. Kuia Pare asked, Why are you crying? What's the matter, boy? The children laughed at the way I spoke. Manu sobbed. Ka awhia Kuia Pare I a Manu, ka ki ia kei te pai. A tōna wā, kaore rātau e kata. Engari, ka miharoke. Kuia Pare hugged him tightly. She said, Don't worry. One day they will not laugh. They will be entranced by your voice. Mario's listening with intent, and hopefully if you're at home you can see some of the beautiful illustrations as well. I taua pō kaore a Manu I tere moe. Mau tonu ngā kōrero a tōna kuia. Ka re rātou e kata, engari ka miharoke, ka miharoke, ka miharoke. That night, Manu did not fall asleep quickly. The words of his kuia kept coming back. They will not laugh. They will be entranced, entranced, entranced. Ka puta mai he tui korokoro, ma. Haere mai, Manu. Whai mai e. Māku koe e ako ki te waiata. Me te kōrero Māori. A white-throated tui appeared. Come with me, Manu. I will teach you to speak and sing in Māori. Ka toparaua ki waho, ka haere ki te wao. Probably te pūkaha, Māori, if they're going into the ngahere. Ka ki te tui, kawe mataku, titiro, whakarongo. They soared outside and on into the forest, and we think they may have gone to pūkaha, which is, of course, the remnants of Te Taperenui or Whātonga, where our bird life was thriving once upon a time and still is today. The tui said, don't be afraid, look and listen. Ka tai rawa ki te marae nui o te aitanga tāne. Haruru ana te wao I ngā reo reka o ngā manu me ngā ngangara. They arrived at Tāne's marae. The forest was alive with the sweet voices of the birds and insects. Ka kōrero te tui. Ko manu tēnei. Ke te hiahia ia ki te waiata me te kōrero I roto I te reo Māori. Mā koutou ia e āwhina, ne? Ka whakai te katoa. I. The tui spoke. This is Manu. We would like to speak. He would like to speak and sing in Māori. Will you help him? Yes, 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 they shouted. Nā te tā tarakihi, whakatangi tō kere kūkau I whakapai te reo kīkiki o Manu. The cicada with clicking castanets cured Manu's stutter. Do you want to try that again? Rāreriroru, Mārio?
Hāreriroru.
Oh, much better. Ka pai Manu. Nā te kereru kū kupa, whakatangi kū I whakapai te reo o Manu ki te waiata. The pigeon, or the kēreru, with its mouth sweetened Manu's singing. Ra, re, ri, ro, ru. Nā te riroriro tioriori whakatangi rōria I whakapai te reo o Manu ki te whakahua. Ra, re, ri,
ro, ru.
Ka pai Manu. The grey warbler with a Jew's harp taught Manu to say the sounds nice and clearly. Nā te ruru pūkana kōkō I whakapai te reo o Manu ki te kōrero. The wide-eyed hooting owl improved Manu's speech. Nā te pī waka kani kata I whakapai te ngākau o Manu kia harakoa ai. The joyful, dancing, pī waka fantail cheered Manu's heart. Ka waiata a Manu ki ōna hoa hau. Te ko toku ha, kwa. Hei koha ki oku hoa, kwa. Manu sang to his new friends. The essence of my song is joy, a gift to you, my friends. Joy, joy, joy. Haruru ana te wao I ngā ūmereanga Manu me ngā ngangara. The forest echoed with the shouts of the forest creatures. Yay, Manu, ka pai koe tō reka rawa. Awake te rā, ka hoki atua Manu ki te kōhanga reo. The next day, Manu returned to the kōhanga reo. Kei te waiata ngā tamariki, and the children were singing, Tuna ti oi, tuara ti roi, hope fati puku reti e. Ka ha mama te waha o Manu. Manu opened his mouth to sing. Ko te tangi puta mai, e hara ko te reo te arewhana. But what came out was not the trumpeting of an elephant. Engari, ko te reo reka o ngā manu tioriori o te wao nui, but the sweet sounds instead he had learnt from his forest friends, the manu tioriori. Ka re ngā tamariki ka pui o rātou taringa, ka whakarongo rātou. The children did not block their ears. They listened. Kaore a whaia kimiora I kapu I o na taringa, ka whakarongo tonu ia, te reka hoki o tō reo manu, waiata mai anō. And whaia kimiora did not block her ears either. She listened too. What a sweet voice you have, Manu. Please sing on. Kāre uaua te reo Māori kia manu, kāre I whiwhiwhi tōna rero, kāre I kikiki tōna reo. He ngā wari kia manu te whakahua. Rā.
Re, ri, ro, ru.
It was not hard for Manu to say the Māori words. His tongue did not stumble, his words did not tangle. It was easy for him to sing and to pronounce. Ka whakarongo ngā tamariki kia Manu, kāre rātou I kata. E whakamiharoke ana rātou ki te reo tī ori ori o Manu. The children listened. They did not laugh. They were entranced by Manu's magical voice. Tēnā koutou. And thank you for listening. Thank you, Mario, for helping me with that wonderful story. Manu, of course, remind me of spring and summer, and we're really excited about what's coming up. And, of course, there are lots of events too. So listen in. Very soon we're going to share some of the pānui for this weekend. But I thought, just as a whakakapi to conclude our beautiful story from this morning, we have another bird song or themed song of Manu. This one, the Tōrea, and it's written by Pere Wihongi and Hemi Kelly. Whakarongo mai.
Ko te tōrea kārere katopa Kiru mai Tawi hoki te tahuna Ki te keri hi te pataka Ho hine mo wana Tai timu, tai pari He proto noi ho te
another beautiful song. Welcome back to Kahurangi with Te Ataahia in Mārio this morning. Now, our maramataka today tells us that we are probably in between Ariroa and Huna. I haven't had a chance to have a look to see if we're far out of tamatea. If you're interested in knowing my thoughts around tamatea, I have just recently posted, and I'll put it on my Reorua page on Facebook. Now, tamatea is a particular phase that is a little bit grumpy, is a little bit impatient, is a little bit troubled in our waters. So I'm quite happy to be out of there. But we're into Ariroa and Huna. Me whakaroau. He wā hua kore a he wā mo te tūmahu. Me matara kei te huna ngā mea katoa. Me tūpato ki ngā mea kei tō aroaro. Me ponoto haere, me pono o mahi. Engari, me matara. So be really careful with Ariroa and Huna. It's all about something being hidden, things that may be different on the surface in comparison to what's underneath. So just being really mindful of our well-being. Talking about well-being, we are talking about the lovely things that we can do in the spring and summertime, like go to pukaha, be in nature, be revived by our waiora and our haumanu by our waiora, and of course spend time with whānau and friends. So I'd love to know by our special guest this morning, Mārio Kapua, what have you been doing over the last weekend? Where did we go and who did we see?
At Rotorua, where our koro lives.
Oh, how wonderful. And Koro's a very special man to me, of course, because he's my paps, and we've spoken about Koro quite a lot on our show for different reasons. But what are some of the special things you like about Koro or you like to do with Koro?
That he's funny and he's gentle and he's even really kind.
That's so lovely to hear. And so it just made me think about how important it is with whoever loved ones we have are still in our lives physically, that we make the most of the opportunities and the time that we have with them to spend quality moments and experiences. Now, Mārio is holding up a book about te mara kai a koro, and it's a really cool book that I know some of our kura kaupapa and kohanga kids would have seen from the Ministry of Education. It has no kupu in it, so the lovely thing about these types of books, of course, is with the photos you can prompt discussion or make up stories, or maybe it reflects some of the things our tamariki do with their own family members. This one's all about mokopuna and koro. Mārio, as you're looking through the photos, would you like just to describe to the listeners who can't see the book, what are some of the things you can see in the book? Maybe just open it up and have a little kōrero. Who do you think's in the book and who is it about?
About Koro and Nani.
Yeah, and who are they with and where?
With some kids.
Yeah, cool. And what are they doing?
Gardening.
Gardening, lovely. It looks like they enjoy gardening together. Now, what are some of the things you enjoy doing with your koro?
Going to Luna Park.
Okay, nice. That sounds like something fun that you would do in the holidays.
Even going in the hot baths that they have.
Oh, I can imagine that being absolutely beautiful. And while we were in Rotorua over the weekend, we were really lucky with Dad to be able to make our way onto one of the local tour buses called the Duck Boats. What did you think about the Duck Boats? Would you like to describe what that's all about?
It's like an army boat,
Mm-hmm.
and you go on it. Then you and then it takes you in different lakes.
Yes, how beautiful. So it's a boat, but it's a truck? Am I understanding right? Yeah.
It's a boat that turns into a truck.
Oh, wow, that's so special. And we've seen them for years now, and we've never been on them, but we thought, you know what, it's a time to support local businesses. And so we're really privileged to see the lakes and the land from that perspective, and to talk about some of the history of our iwi to Kahurangi and the lands and the volcanoes and the mountains. So I thought, how fitting that we have this book called Waka Wairua, The Spirit Waka, by Yvonne Morrison, one of the Morrison whānau, illustrated by Fifi Colston, all about one of our maunga, tarawera, that we actually went and saw last weekend. So whakarongo mai Mārio, whakarongo mai koutou. E te iwi. The majestic terraces glowed pink and white in the morning sunlight. As the tourist marvelled, Sophia smiled. She whispered a karakia, a prayer of thanks to the maunga tarawera, which stood as guardian over the terraces. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced. The crowd on the tour boat hushed and turned to face their guide, except for one man who was sketching the magnificent landscape. These splendid examples of geological wonder, the pink and white terraces, are formed from silica dissolved in the thermal waters of the lake. The water flows down over the terraces, leaving a deposit. She trailed off, frowning. Over the heads of her attentive audience, she noticed movement out on the steamy lake. It was another boat, a competing tour, no doubt. As the tourists looked expectantly at Sophia, the other boat drew closer. Can you see that, Mario? And now she could see that it wasn't a tour boat. It was a Māori waka, a war canoe. The intricately carved waka slipped silently through the swirling mists of the lake. It blazed russet in the sun. On board was a full crew of warriors, and at the helm stood a chief dressed in a fine cloak of huia feathers. It was an unearthly sight. Sophia was puzzled. What was the waka doing out on the lake? Was this a new show for the tourists? Then, as the waka passed their own craft, the chief pointed towards Tarawera and turned to lock eyes with Sophia. Suddenly, the waka vanished. Leaving not a ripple on the lake's surface. The tourists gasped. Sophia was stunned. Feeling chilled, she clutched her shawl tighter, unsure what to say or do. The tourists were firing questions at her. Had she seen the waka disappear? What did it mean? Was it some kind of trick? Then one of the ladies fainted. Sophia was relieved for this distraction and immediately went over to aid the woman. She nodded to the boatman, indicating that he should return to shore. The boat turned in an arc as Sophia patted the lady's hand and one of the gentlemen waved smelling salts under her nose. Back on the land, the tourists continued to besiege Sophia with questions. Finally, trying to dismiss the incident, she said, "It was a trick of the light. Mists must have swallowed up the waka, making it seem as if it vanished." The tourists were not convinced, but when she refused to talk about it any more, they drifted away. Sophia hurriedly gathered her share of the day's takings from the boatman, then lifted her skirts and ran for home. If only it had been a trick of the light, but it was not. Sophia knew what it had been, a waka wairua, a spirit waka. At her home in the village, Sophia's grandmother was bent over the stove stirring a pot of stew for the family's lunch. As soon as she saw Sophia, she put down her spoon and led her to a seat at the table. "What is it, child?" "Oh, queer," Sophia exclaimed. "Today on the lake I saw a waka wairua. What can it mean?" The old woman sucked in her breath, then shook her head sadly. "Calamity, child, always calamity." She patted Sophia's hand and turned back to the stove to ladle out the bowls of steaming stew. They ate in silence. The next morning it was beautiful out on the lake, and the terraces gleamed, lifting Sophia's spirits. A few tourists asked about the waka. They had heard stories from their friends who had gone out the day before, but Sophia again dismissed the idea, and soon almost began to believe her own explanation. Maybe the waka had simply disappeared in the mist. Maybe Hukuia was just being dramatic, the way old women can be. What calamity could befall such a beautiful place? She smiled at Tarawera Maunga. As the days went by, Sophia forgot about the spirit waka. She enjoyed her time out at the terraces, studying the reactions of the enthralled tourists. Then, 9 days after she had seen the waka, Sophia was woken by a deep, rumbling calamity. She sprang out of bed to find the floor rolling under her feet. Her mother and grandmother were screaming. "Oh, Taukuria!" Sophia pulled her house dress over her nightgown, ignoring her corsets and undergarments, and raced to her family. Together they stumbled out of their cottage and into the village. It was the maunga, Tarawera. Sophia stared up at mighty Tarawera, and the mountain responded. A column of fire shot out the top. Red-hot rocks, smoke and ash erupted in a torrent. Sophia dragged her mother and grandmother back inside, and there they huddled under the strong beams. The ash pelted down like rain. As houses in the village collapsed, their owners sought shelter at the little cottage. Sophia welcomed them all. When the eruption stopped, Sophia went out to investigate. Te Wairua was unrecognisable, with most of the houses completely buried. Sophia was lucky. The village was a ruin, but at least she had her home and family. Her house was one of the few still standing, although it looked forlorn, surrounded by a field of rubble. Suddenly, Sophia felt a wave of alarm. The terraces! She had to check. Dodging the cracks and fissures that had appeared everywhere in the ground, Sophia slipped out of the decimated village down to the shores of the lake, Lake Rotomahana. The terraces were gone. Where beauty had once been, now only debris covered the base of the mountain. Sophia wept, and the sky wept with her grey tears of dust and ash. After a few moments, Sophia wiped her eyes on her muddy sleeves and made her way back to the village. There was work to be done. Sophia spotted a group of men who were digging out houses. She was astonished to see that they were pulling bedraggled survivors from the wreckage. How could anyone have survived? Without hesitation, Sophia joined the group, even as the menfolk tried half-heartedly to stop her. This is no job for a woman. But in truth, they needed all the help they could get. Sophia saved many people then and in the following days, and when no one was left to rescue, she helped to rebuild the houses. Every day, as she saw what people had lost, she gave thanks to the mountain that she and her family had been spared. She gave thanks for the memory of the dazzling pink and white terraces, and every day she said a karakia to the spirit chief, her thanks for trying to warn her with his waka wairua, the spirit waka. The end. Isn't that an incredible story of te arawa, of strength, of mana wahine, and of our tohu, te taiao, me te ao wairua. So a really lovely story all about the wairua and how important it is that we connect into our instincts at times, not just of positivity, but of, possible worry or possible calamity. Anyway, to kind of conclude that beautiful story and our connection to koro, the lovely holiday that we've just had with him in Rotorua, I'm wanting to play a song on another playlist, actually, Mario, and we were talking about this earlier. It's actually one of your favourite songs. Do you remember which one it is?
No.
Oh, okay, so this might be a bit of a surprise. It's a song that they're singing at Southend School Montessori with Whaiapāngia Reiri. And it comes from a very famous kapahaka group, Ngā Piki Kōtuku o Ngā Tirongo Mai. Is that ringing any bells yet?
Yeah.
Oh, Te Ata
Mahinga.
Sing along, koutou mā. This is Te Piki Kōtuku o Ngā Tirongo Mai, Te Waiata Tira o Te Tau 2011 iwa I Te Matatini. Te Ata Mahina.
Ko te aura, te au marama, tēnā toko kātu, ko te pōnui, ko te pōroa, ko te pō, te kitea. Tēnā toko kātu, haere te pō, te mai te ata mahina, ata tui, ata rapa. Mai a te putanga, tamanui te rā. Ko te ataha, wara,
Te piki kōtuku o ngā tirongo mai, ko te tehi o ngā rōpū o te arawa a tēnā koutou. Ko te ataahia tēnei mō Kahurangi, kei konei hoki taku mā tāmua, tāku a piki kōtuku, tāku Kahurangi a Mario Kapua Kasorina. Mihi mai Mario, mihi mai ki te whānau e whakarongona. Nope, he's gone silent again. That's okay. Kei konei tonu ia, listening in and helping Mama out with her show today. Now, we're coming to the very end of our show, so I've got a couple of paone I want to send out to everyone from our two iwi entities, Ngāti Kahungunu and, of course, Rangitāne. So the first is the AGM happening tomorrow, Saturday the 16th, Saturday morning out at Te Ataahia Agriculture Training Centre. This is the Ngāti Kahungunu ki Wairarapa AGM. So if you need and seek more information, get in touch with the office. Mariana should be there to answer any queries you may have either via phone or via email or, of course, via their Facebook page. Please note that because of the COVID restrictions, they're also live streaming if you're feeling a little bit uneasy about being in a a space with lots of people. So the live stream is available to you via social media, of course, via their Facebook page, but also they have said to our whānau, mana whenua who are going to turn up in person, please be careful, make sure you're wearing your mask, you're not coming unwell, you're well and you're healthy to be there, you're keeping your physical distance from others, and of course you're hand sanitising and signing in with the COVID Tracer app or in person, writing out your details on the entry there. The other big pānui, and you would have heard this on our other radio station with Brent Gear, we have a huge big vaccination event happening at Maita 10 Mega. Now, this follows today's vaccination drive out at the Gladstone complex from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. today. If you can't get to Gladstone today and you're wanting to head along to get your vaccinations, no bookings required, of course, you can head on down to Maita 10 from 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Now, there will be prize draws. There is kai on offer, and I believe there is a Māori market and stalls available if you want to start your Christmas shopping early, which sounds very exciting. Mario's got a big smile on his face. I know, I wish we were here. We're off on another holiday. But for those of you who are here in Wairarapa, please get down to Maita 10. And if you are needing a ride, the DHB are providing free rides for you. You can contact the DHB directly or to Maita Trust office to get the details on how to get there. Now, the last pānui that I have before we finish up with a beautiful story and a waiata is this is for those of you who are listening in and you might be a nursing student at UCole. Our beautiful Ricky Anderson and his ropu of colleagues at UCole have received a message from me, Te Ataahia Hurihanganui from Reorua. We are seeking new nursing students for a bit of a hui. It should only take about an hour of your time at some point next week. And we're looking for your feedback in regards to a nursing campaign through the Ministry of Health. We'd love just your opinion, your time, and any feedback that you may want to give me in regards to that campaign. So please contact Ricky Anderson at UCole if you haven't already seen the pānui. It will come out between this week and next. Otherwise, contact me directly at reorua.co.nz or, of course, via my Facebook page. Tēnā tātou, those are the pānui for this morning. Now, Mario, before we finish, I just wanted to ask you a couple more questions because we're talking about the beautiful, the moments that we have with our grandparents. Yeah? So we've talked about koro. What are some of the lovely things you like to do with Nanny Shell?
Going to her cafe in Karatin. It's called Kainga.
That's so nice. And she's she's working hard, eh?
Yeah.
And what about Nana and Granddad? What do you like doing with them? What do they do with you sometimes?
They usually give me some sweets and let me watch TV.
So I think that's Māori code for maybe they spoil you sometimes and they do things that they know we don't do often at home. And of course we think about our grandparents overseas at the moment, our nonni, nonna, juicy, nonna buffo. What can you talk about in regards to them? When you think about them, what do you think about?
Going to this market that sells sweets for breakfast.
Going to the market that sells sweets for breakfast and maybe eating together. Yeah, how lovely. Ooh.
Even going to the park.
Oh, so going out and about and doing things.
Yeah, and in the forest.
That's so lovely, darling. Thank you so much for sharing your opinions today and your ideas and your reflections. We're talking about being close to the family members and the loved ones that we have still with us. And it's such an important time that we remind ourselves of how lucky we are and the different privileges that we have. Of course, one of Mario's privileges is that he has many different nonni, grandparents, kuia, korua, nanas, granddads in his life, which bring him great joy. And so to finish off, I would like to share with you all one of my favourite books. It's quite a simple book. It's in te reo Māori. I'm not going to translate it because it has quite simple Māori in it, and it uses a repetitive phrase which I will translate called ka rongo ana ahau. The beauty of this word rongo is it's the same word for listen, sense, hear, feel. So it's one of those beautiful words in te reo Māori which uses many other words in English, and it's about this young person who's with different family members throughout the book and the different things that she senses, hears and feels as she goes about her daily life, with some beautiful imagery. Nā oho kā I tuhi, nā gas hanta ngā pikitia. So just to finish up our beautiful spring and summer and manu and connection to nature and wairua theme for today, ka rongo ana ahau nā oho kā. Ka rongo ana ahau I te manu, ka waiata ahau. So I hear the bird sing and I sing. Yeah, that's kind of the nature of the phrase. And so we'll just go through it. And for those of you who can see the pictures, awesome. Otherwise, get your hands on this beautiful puka puka. Ka rongo ana ahau I te marangai, ka mā taki taki ahau. Ka rongo ana ahau I te puoro, ka kani kani ahau. Ka rongo ana ahau I te mihini ngongo, ka kapu ahau I o kutaringa. Ka rongo ana ahau I te whaititiri, ka hūpeke ahau ki te moenga o mā maraua ko pāpā. Ka rongo ana ahau I te haruru o te motoka, ka oma ahau ki waho. Ka rongo ana ahau I te kakarakai, ka ngorongoro tōku puku. I love that. I smell beautiful smells of kai being cooked And my puku starts to rumble. That's great, isn't it, Mario? Ka rongo ana hau I te mahana o te rā, ka tango a hau I tōku poraka. So it's a great book for cause and effect. Ka rongo ana a hau I te wairere, ka pirangi kaukau a hau. Ka rongo ana a hau I te pako o te poi hau, pop, ka tūmeke a hau. Ka rongo ana a hau I te mamai, ka tangi a hau. And for those of you who don't know this book, I feel pain and I cry, but what's lovely about the illustration is she's sitting on Nan's knee. And of course, the comfort of Nan is the best kind of medicine out there, I think. Ka rongo ana hau I te pūrākau, ka kata a hau. Now that one's about listening to stories and laughing. And that reminds me of Mario with this koro, when koro's telling you funny stories, eh, Mario?
Yeah.
He's very funny. Ka rongo ana a hau I te karakia, ka noho puku a hau. Ka rongo ana a hau I te oriori, ka moe a hau. I hear the oriori and the lullaby of my Nan and I fall fast asleep. Just a lovely book with really simple reo. Now, I hope you've enjoyed our program today and you've heard about the Pānui again. Postponement date for the Pūkaha Open Day, no longer this weekend, but please do get along there anyway and just pay your fee to get in and support our beautiful tapere nui o whātonga. We have the vaccine drives happening both today in Gladstone and tomorrow at Maita 10 Mega. And last but not least, the Ngāti Kahunganuki Wairarapa AGM will be happening out at the Training Egg Farm Training Centre from tomorrow morning onwards. You can get more details from Mariana at the office there. Tēnā koe Mario, mihi atu. Ki ngā kai whakarongo.
Ka kite, bye.
Lovely to have my beautiful son with us. And I want to end with a Kahurangi, a beautiful song from here, Manuhuia. This, of course, is from the Wairarapa Moana album, which is available on Spotify or YouTube. Before we do, I'll finish with a kai kōhau. No mai ngā hua, no mai ngā nui, no mai kia pai, kia hāwere ai. Tihei, mauri ora.